for information on that. What is your criteria for success? Is it a certain dollar amount? Do you consider yourself successful when you have managed to bring in $2 million in revenue? Do you consider yourself successful after you've had a yearly gross income of $50,000? Or maybe a yearly net income or revenue of, I don't know, $25,000? At what point do you consider yourself successful? Is it a feeling of accomplishment? Do you consider yourself successful when you get that feeling of accomplishment? When does that come? Or is it when you finally have the opportunity to fire your boss? When you get to leave your daytime job to work your business full time? Is that when you consider yourself successful? That definition is different for everyone. You have to set your own definition. And that is one of your first long-term goals, is to set your criteria for success and then set your long-term goal to meet that criteria so that you can become successful. Now, a lot of young people ask this question: do I need a college degree? Some people think that it requires a business degree to run a business successfully. Well, the quick answer to this is absolutely not. You don't need a college degree at all. I personally, despite my educational background, am not an advocate for postgraduate education. I actually believe that degrees are very expensive pieces of wall decor. So you do not need a college degree to run a business. However, I am an advocate of education in general. Okay? No matter what you do, where you go, who you work for, whether you work for yourself or someone else, you need to educate yourself on what you're doing, how to do it properly, and to be successful at it. You're going to always have to educate yourself, and you're going to constantly educate yourself. And if that's not something that you want to do or that you want to pay to do, because education can sometimes cost money, if that's not something that you want, then perhaps being an entrepreneur is not for you. Am I too young? Well, for all those out there just wondering, I want to introduce you to a young man. His name is Joel Williams Jr. And at the age of 13, he's the president and CEO of his own corporation, Coltrack Corporation, which is the parent company for Smart Button. This young man started a company called Smart Button Shoes. He had his little sister had trouble figuring out which shoe went on the right foot and which shoe went on the left foot. So he came up with a product that you press the button and it tells you, this is my right shoe or this is my left shoe. And he made a business, and he makes income every year on these Smart Button shoes. He has 2 employees, mom and dad. He's 13 years old, and he employs his mother and father. How awesome is that? He was a 2007 Black Enterprise Teenpreneur of the Year. Wonderful, wonderful. Age 13. So if you think you're too young to become an entrepreneur, absolutely not. If you have an idea and you have some parents who are willing to help, then you can start your business. Some small business facts of life. Most small businesses fail in the first 5 years. Only 66.67% survive the first 2 years. Over a quarter of businesses, over 25%, do not make it past 2 years. That is a lot of business, a lot of failed businesses. Only 44% go on for another 2 years. Only 44% of businesses. 66% of businesses fail within 4 years. That's over more than half. So, with all this failure that is looming, is it still worth it to start a small business? Well, being an entrepreneur is it's expensive, but only for a while. Once you start generating revenue, if you keep track and you keep your expenses down, it doesn't have to be very expensive, but it is a lot of hard work. It's harder than working for someone else. you're probably going to put in more hours than working for someone else. And you'll definitely need more education than if you were working for someone else. But most importantly, it's not impossible to succeed. So, is it worth it? Absolutely. It's not impossible to be successful. As long as you remember that no job is safe unless you're the boss. As long as you're working for someone else, someone can hand you a pink slip today and you'll be without a job and a paycheck tomorrow. When you own your own business and your revenue is certain, it may not be completely certain, but when you own your own business, you can see the end coming. Okay? You have control over your finances. You have control over whether you get paid or whether you have a job or not, today or tomorrow. Okay? You have to own your dream. And the price of owning your dream is passion. And I say it's passion. There's some money involved here too. But I say passion because when you own your own business, there are a lot of sacrifices that you have to make. Perhaps you have to give up your luxury car and go for a more financially economical one. Okay, that's a sacrifice that a lot of people are not willing to make. Perhaps you have to lose sleep. You have to go to work at your full-time day job and then come home and work part-time or full-time on your own business. You're going to lose some sleep. You're going to lose maybe some time with the family. There are going to be sacrifices that need to be made. And if you don't have passion for what you're doing and for what you want to do, you're not going to be willing to make those sacrifices. And these are sacrifices that you have to make in order to get the business up and running and in order to keep the business running. Okay? You also want to do your homework. Okay, this goes back to, do you have a customer base? You have to do the research. You have to find out if what you if what you're wanting to sell is worth selling wherever you're going to sell it. You have to do your research on location. You have to do your research on market. You have to do your research on competitors. The next thing, image. Remember, do you want to portray your business as a homey, comfortable, small business that will give plenty of personal attention? Or do you want to portray yourself as a big business that does big things? Okay, this is something you have to think about. Most importantly, you want to keep your eyes wide open. All right, it is business. It should never be taken personal, but you do want to have some passion about what you're doing. But you want to keep your eyes open. Perhaps what you're longing to sell is not worth selling, but you would know that doing your homework. But if you get into a rut, if you find a business that seemed to be something that was a good moneymaker, it may have seemed to be a gold mine, but a turn in the economy may have turn that in the other direction. You have to keep your eyes open and knowing that if something is not working, something is not selling, you cannot continue to put money into an old car that doesn't start. Would you put money into would you put $5,000 into a 20-year-old car just to keep it running? Absolutely not. You go out and you buy a 5-year-old car with that $5,000. Okay, you go buy a new car. It's the same thing with your business. Are you going to continue to put money into a business that is doomed for failure? Absolutely not. You get out there, you try it. If it doesn't work, you got to change it up. Try something new. Right. A word to the wise is sufficient. This is a saying that my middle school math teacher in Philadelphia used to say all the time whenever she'd give out advice. So the following slides are my advice for up-and-coming entrepreneurs.